I shouldn't have agreed to this last-minute night shift, but the money was too good to pass up. The moment I stepped into the quiet house, a chill crawled down my spine, and I realized how alone I truly was. Mom had left her son in my care for the evening, her words still echoing in my mind. "If you hear someone singing to him at night, don't go in." I nodded, brushing it off as nervousness, but now every shadow felt like it was watching me. The living room smelled faintly of baby lotion, and something else I couldn't name. I set my bag down, noticing how the dim hallway lights flickered and threw long, trembling shadows across the walls. The monitor upstairs flickered with static, the grainy image of the nursery barely visible. My fingers hovered over the controls, heart hammering in a rhythm that seemed to echo through the empty house. I tried to settle into the routine, checking the temperature, making sure the baby monitor was plugged in, listening for the familiar little snores, but something felt off. The monitor crackled, a soft, almost electric whisper that made me jerk back. I told myself it was just interference, nothing more. Yet, in the pit of my stomach, a sense of being watched took hold, tight and suffocating. I went to the kitchen to make a cup of tea, the kettle hissing like a warning. Every creak of the floorboards sounded amplified in the silence. The walls seemed closer, pressing in on me. I thought about Mom's warning again, that strange, impossible line about "someone else comes when I'm away." I laughed nervously, shaking my head. Of course, I didn't believe it, but even as I poured the water, the hairs on the back of my neck bristled. Then it started. A soft humming from upstairs, distant at first, almost gentle. But it wasn't the lullaby Mom usually sings. My stomach dropped. My pulse raced. I froze, listening. The tune was wrong, off, haunting, and yet unmistakably directed at the baby. My eyes darted to the monitor. At first, it was just static, but then something moved. Something I couldn't see clearly, just the faint outline of a figure near the crib. I swallowed hard, reminding myself to breathe. I remembered the words again, louder in my mind. "If you hear her singing, do not go in." My legs felt heavy, rooted to the floor, but my body screamed at me to move, to run, to escape. I wanted to call Mom's number, but she was miles away. There was only me, the baby upstairs, and her. I leaned closer to the monitor, trying to make sense of the shifting shadows, but then the figure moved into the light for a fraction of a second. Pale face, empty eyes, and a slow, deliberate smile. I knew then I wasn't just babysitting anymore. I was being watched, and the watcher had already noticed me. The humming lingered in my ears, soft yet insistent, twisting through the silence like smoke. I gripped the edge of the counter, my knuckles white, my breath shallow. Every instinct screamed at me to leave the house, run until the night swallowed me whole. But I couldn't. The baby was upstairs. Mom had entrusted him to me. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something in that nursery wasn't supposed to be there. I moved back toward the monitor, every step measured, my shoes silent against the cold floorboards. The screen flickered again, static crackling like tiny sparks. Shadows danced in the corners of the nursery, longer and darker than they should have been. My stomach churned as I leaned closer, trying to catch a glimpse of the crib. The baby was there, sleeping, his little chest rising and falling. For a moment, relief warmed me, but then the shadows shifted, unnaturally, as if something unseen had crossed the room. I shook my head. It's just a trick of the light. Nothing's wrong, I told myself, but deep down I knew the lie. The hairs on my arms stood on end, and a cold sweat spread across my back. The monitor crackled again, louder this time, a soft, whispering static that almost sounded like a voice. I leaned in, straining to hear. Then I heard it clearly, the lullaby, wrong, terribly wrong. The melody was familiar in its purpose, singing to soothe a child, but the tone was icy, unnatural, pulling at the edges of my sanity. My stomach dropped. I remembered Mom's warning, the strange, cryptic words that suddenly made horrifying sense. "If you hear someone singing to him, do not go in. She comes when I'm away. She does not share children." My heart slammed in my chest as I stared at the monitor, trying to force the shadows to make sense. And then I saw it, a figure, tall and impossibly thin, standing at the edge of the crib. Pale face, dark, hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through the screen. She didn't move like a human. Her movements were slow, deliberate, like water flowing too smoothly, too perfectly. I stumbled backward, nearly knocking over a chair. The humming continued, low and chilling, reverberating through the monitor. The baby stirred, his small hands curling into fists in sleep, unaware of the presence in the room. I told myself to stay calm. Do not go in. Do not go in. But my mind screamed that the figure upstairs, this night nanny, as I whispered the name in terror, already knew I had seen her. Every instinct told me to run, but I was frozen, staring at the monitor. Her shadow stretched toward the crib, fingers brushing the edge as though confirming the baby's presence. She wasn't here for him. He was alive, intact. She was here for me. The lights flickered. A floorboard creaked upstairs. My pulse thundering in my ears, I realized time had already begun running out. The house felt smaller, the walls pressing closer, and the air heavy, thick with something wrong, something ancient and deliberate. And then the figure turned slightly, just enough to reveal the faintest curve of a smile. Not at the baby, but at me. I swallowed hard, backing away from the monitor. My body screamed at me to run, but my legs felt rooted to the floor. One thought consumed me. If she comes downstairs, I have to be ready. The lullaby grew louder, sliding through the walls like liquid ice. My chest tightened, my hands trembling as I clutched the edge of the counter. Every rational thought screamed at me to leave, to escape the house while I still could. But the baby was upstairs. Mom had trusted me with him, and despite the fear twisting my stomach into knots, I couldn't abandon him. I forced myself to step closer to the monitor, my eyes locked on the nursery screen. The shadow that had lingered at the crib moved with a slow, deliberate grace. Pale fingers traced the edge of the mattress, not touching the baby, but confirming her presence. And then I realized the lullaby wasn't coming from the speakers. It was coming from the figure herself. The melody twisted, dark and hollow, perfectly familiar yet impossibly wrong. My breath hitched. I tried to swallow, but my throat had gone dry. Do not go in. Do not go in. Mom's warning screamed in my mind like a mantra, yet every instinct in my body pulled me forward, a dangerous curiosity I couldn't fight. I glanced around the empty living room, imagining escape routes, doors, windows. But the house had already become a maze, every shadow stretching closer, every creak echoing like footsteps. The figure shifted suddenly, gliding across the room with impossible silence, stopping at the crib. Her face was pale, almost translucent, eyes dark voids that seemed to look right through me. And then she smiled. Not at the baby, not at anything in the room. At me. I stumbled backward, heart hammering. My pulse roared in my ears as I realized something undeniable. She didn't want him. She wanted me. The baby remained untouched, safe for now, but that twisted lullaby was a summons, and I had answered merely by witnessing it. The monitor flickered violently. Static hissed, crackled, and for a moment, the room vanished from the screen. My stomach dropped. When the image returned, her face filled it entirely, inches from the camera. The pale, empty eyes bored into mine. She knew I had seen her. She knew I had acknowledged her existence. A cold shiver crawled down my spine. I knew she was already moving. She didn't hurry like a normal person. Her steps were slow, deliberate, methodical, each one carrying the weight of inevitability. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but my legs refused to obey. I wanted to scream, to call for help, but my voice died in my throat. The baby stirred, murmuring in his sleep, unaware of the looming presence. And then I realized she wasn't a woman. She couldn't be. The way she moved, the hollow absence of life behind her eyes, the unnatural cadence of the lullaby, she was something else entirely. A predator, ancient and patient, awakened only when someone dared to see her. I backed away from the monitor, heart pounding so violently it felt like it might burst from my chest. I had to remind myself, do not go in, do not go in. But her presence was already creeping down the walls of the house, intangible yet suffocating. I could feel her awareness settling over me, cold and meticulous, calculating every move I would make. Then came the first sound from upstairs that wasn't part of the lullaby, a floorboard creaking. Slow, intentional. The signal that she was leaving the nursery, that she was coming for me. The static on the monitor intensified, crackling like dry ice, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I pressed my hand against the screen, hoping it was a trick of the camera, a glitch in the feed. But it wasn't. Slowly, deliberately, the figure's face emerged. Pale, too smooth, eyes dark, unending voids that seemed to pierce through me, seeing every fear I had ever tried to hide. My stomach twisted. The baby lay peacefully in the crib, oblivious to the horror inches above him. But the figure wasn't there for him. I knew it, deep in my bones. Her presence radiated hunger, not for flesh, not for blood, but for me. The thought made my skin crawl, a cold wave that rose from my feet to the back of my neck. I stumbled backward, my hand brushing against the wall as I tried to ground myself. The lullaby continued, distorted now, warped, sending shivers straight into my chest. I had never heard anything so wrong yet so deliberate, like a warning in song form. My mind reeled, trying to process what I was seeing. Her face filled the entire monitor. The camera must have captured her too close, too fast, and yet she was nowhere I could see. It was impossible. And then she moved her head slightly, tilting it as if testing me, measuring how much I could endure before breaking. That smile, thin, cruel, curved across her lips. Not for the baby, not for anyone but me. I knew I had to stay calm. I had to remind myself, do not go in, do not go in. But my body had already betrayed me, frozen in place, unable to look away. Every instinct screamed to run, to escape, but my legs refused to respond. It was like she had reached into the house itself, tethering me to her awareness. The monitor flickered again, showing only static for a heartbeat, and then her face vanished. Relief hit me briefly, but it was a lie. Because when the image returned, she was no longer at the crib. She was closer. Standing at the top of the stairs, her form stretching impossibly, the shadows clinging to her like smoke. I could feel her eyes on me, through the screen, through the walls, through everything. My heart raced. My palms were slick with sweat. She wasn't human. She wasn't even bound by the rules of this world. She was patient, eternal, and now aware that I had seen her. I backed away, my thoughts spinning. The baby was safe for now. He was just a lure, a tether, a reason for her to exist in this space. She didn't want him. She wanted me. And as I watched, paralyzed and horrified, she began to descend the stairs. Slow, measured, every step echoing in my chest like a death knell. I wanted to flee, wanted to scream, wanted to tear down the walls and disappear into the night, but the air itself seemed to resist me. The house had become her hunting ground. I was the prey, and upstairs the lullaby had stopped. Silence fell, but it wasn't peace. It was anticipation. Her face appeared again, just for a moment, in the darkness of the stairs' shadow, and then she was gone. But I knew, I could feel it in my bones, that she was moving closer, unstoppable, patient, and aware of every step I would take. My legs shook uncontrollably as I backed away from the monitor, eyes glued to the nursery screen. The baby was asleep, oblivious, but I knew the truth now. The pale figure, the night nanny, wasn't here for him. She was here for me. Every fiber of my being screamed to escape, yet my mind raced, trying to figure out the safest route out of the house. The static on the monitor flickered violently, and the screen went black for a heartbeat. My stomach dropped, and I pressed my fingers to the power button, heart hammering. When the image returned, she was gone from the crib. My eyes widened. Her shadow lingered at the top of the stairs, stretching unnaturally, dark and impossible. Her hollow eyes seemed to burn into me, and I could feel the weight of her attention pressing down, closer than any human could ever be. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I wanted to call Mom, but her number felt 1,000 miles away. The thought of leaving the baby alone in the house had my stomach twisting. But I knew the truth. If she wanted him, he'd be gone by now. She was patient. She didn't rush. The house had become her domain, and I was intruding. The lullaby returned, faint now, drifting through the walls, warping in ways that made my teeth ache. It was slower this time, deliberate, as if marking the passage of time until she reached me. I could feel the house itself change. Shadows grew longer, corners darkened, and the air thickened with something cold, something alive. I forced myself to breathe, counting each inhale like a mantra. Do not go in, do not go in. I could not step into the nursery. Not now, not ever. My gaze flicked to the front door. That was my only chance. But the living room stretched farther than it should have, the shadows creeping along the walls, making each step feel like it would betray me. A creak sounded upstairs. My stomach clenched. She was moving, slow, methodical. I could hear the faintest brush of air as if her presence warped the world itself. The thought made my knees weak. I imagined her descending, every step bringing her closer, every movement deliberate, patient, inevitable. I had to make a choice. Stand frozen and let her find me, or run. My chest heaved. My hands shook as I gripped the edge of the counter for support, listening to the echo of my own heartbeat over the lullaby that now felt like a warning rather than a song. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. My eyes darted to the hallway, to the shadowed stairs she would soon descend. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Every instinct screamed to leave now, to escape while I still had the chance. I couldn't save the baby. He wasn't the target. I was. I forced my legs to move, slow at first, then faster, keeping my eyes on the nursery monitor. Her shadow was gone from the stairs, but I knew. She was watching, waiting for me to make a mistake. My pulse thundered, every sound amplified. The whine of the fridge, the drip of a faucet, the distant hum of the heater. All of it became part of the tension, part of the trap. And then I saw her, or felt her presence, slide from the staircase, a dark blur against the dim hallway light. I froze, my stomach lurched. The lullaby had stopped. Silence. Not peace, but anticipation. She didn't rush. She didn't need to. The longer I hesitated, the closer she would get. I had to choose. One step, then another, until I was moving. Heart in my throat, hands trembling, eyes glued to the monitor. The Night Nanny was coming. I couldn't stop her. I could only run. And so I did. I could hear her before I saw her. The faintest creak of floorboards, deliberate and slow, echoed through the silent house. My heart slammed against my ribcage as I pressed myself against the wall, trying to make myself smaller, hoping she wouldn't notice me. But I knew it was too late. The Night Nanny was already here, gliding through the hallway, her presence heavy and suffocating. Every shadow seemed to stretch unnaturally toward her, wrapping the house in darkness. The monitor upstairs still flickered, and I couldn't bring myself to look at it. I knew she was watching, that her hollow eyes followed my every move, yet the nursery remained empty. The baby slept, unaware, innocent in the eye of this storm. I had to keep him safe, but I also had to survive. I edged toward the front door, every step careful, every sound magnified in the oppressive silence. The air was thick, almost solid, pressing against my skin. Then came a sound that made me freeze, a floorboard creaking just behind me. I could feel her presence closer now, shifting the air around me. She wasn't running. She didn't need to. She moved with a patience that made every second stretch into an eternity. My pulse hammered in my ears, drowning out every other sound. I imagined her face, pale and impossibly smooth, hollow eyes fixed on me, that slow, cruel smile. I wanted to scream, to tear down the walls and run blindly into the night, but the house itself seemed to resist me. Each step forward felt like wading through something thick, something alive. A shadow stretched across the living room, dark and fluid, moving faster than it should have been possible. My stomach turned to ice as I realized she had already crossed the distance between us. The night nanny was closer. I could almost feel her eyes on the back of my neck, her awareness probing, testing. I grabbed the doorknob, fingers slick with sweat, and yanked it open. The night air rushed in, cold and biting, filling my lungs. Relief surged, but it was fleeting. The faintest whisper of the lullaby brushed against my ears, warped and chilling. She wasn't far behind. She never was. I ran, feet pounding against the driveway, ears straining for any hint of her. And then I heard it, soft, deliberate footsteps behind me, echoing in perfect rhythm with my own. I dared a glance over my shoulder. Nothing, just darkness, but I knew I could feel her there, watching, waiting. The house loomed behind me, silent now, yet alive in a way that made my skin crawl. The night nanny wasn't gone. She had only begun. And I knew with a sick certainty that she would follow me, patient and unrelenting. The baby was safe, but I was the target. I didn't stop running. I didn't look back. Every instinct screamed to flee, to put distance between us. Yet deep down, I knew the truth. No matter how far I ran, she would always know I had seen her. She would always be coming. And somewhere in the silence, the lullaby whispered again, faint and impossible, carrying a promise I couldn't escape. She was never far. The night air burned in my lungs as I tore down the driveway, every muscle screaming, every heartbeat echoing like a drum of warning. Behind me, the house stood silent, yet I could feel her presence still threading through the shadows, a suffocating weight that followed me no matter how far I ran. The night nanny didn't need doors, didn't need walls. She moved with patience, with inevitability. She had been aware of me the moment I saw her, and now she hunted me with deliberate slowness. My hands shook as I reached the edge of the yard. The streetlights offered little comfort, weak pools of light in the dark, but I kept moving. Every instinct in me screamed to keep running. To stop would mean I didn't even want to imagine it. The baby's cries, which should have reached me long ago, remained silent. He was safe. That was the only reassurance I had in this living nightmare. And then I heard it, soft, deliberate behind me. Footsteps, not human. Not the quick, hasty steps of a person chasing me, but long, calculated, echoing through the night with a rhythm that matched the lullaby in my mind. My stomach twisted as I realized she had found me, even here in the open, with the world between us. I didn't dare look back. I couldn't. But I felt her awareness, like icy fingers brushing the nape of my neck, pressing me forward, testing me. I stumbled, tripping over the uneven curb, heart hammering. The cold air bit at my cheeks, but I forced myself up, desperate not to fall again. Behind me, the hush of the night seemed wrong, warped. I imagined the shadows bending, stretching, and I knew it wasn't my imagination. She was there, melding with the darkness, every inch of the night attuned to her presence. Then I reached the edge of the street. Cars passed, unaware, the noise a fleeting distraction from the terror pursuing me. And for the first time, I dared a glance back. The house loomed in the distance, the windows dark, yet I could feel her standing at the top of the stairs, impossibly still. A shape blurred at the edge of the darkness. The lullaby whispered again, faint and warped, carrying that impossible, patient promise. She had seen me. She would come for me. I ran until my legs burned and my lungs threatened to collapse. I didn't stop, I didn't look back. Every instinct told me I had survived, but I knew the truth. I had only outrun her, not escaped. She didn't move like a person. She waited, patiently, eternally. And now she knew I was aware of her. Now she knew I had witnessed her existence. I didn't stop until I reached the safety of a well-lit street, until the house was far behind me, swallowed by distance. My chest heaved, my body trembling, but the sense of being watched didn't leave. The night nanny wasn't gone. She was out there, waiting, patient. She would always know. The baby slept peacefully in his crib, unaware of the terror that had invaded his home. But I knew I would never forget. The hollow eyes, the pale face, the slow, deliberate steps. She didn't need to take him. She needed me. And somewhere in the stillness of the night, the faintest echo of that lullaby reached me, carrying a chilling certainty. She would come again,